Hey everyone, my name is Anna Kawakami, and I'm a PhD student at Carnegie Mellon's Human-Computer Interaction Institute. Today I'm excited to share the Situate AI Guidebook, a CHI 2024 paper with my amazing co-authors, Amanda Coston, Haiyi, Hoda Heidari, and Ken Holstein. While public sector agencies in the US have rapidly adopted new AI tools with hopes to improve services across child welfare, credit lending, housing allocation, or public health, ensuring the responsible design has proven to be an immense challenge. Public sector AI tools in the past decade have often failed to produce their intended value in practice. For example, the Michigan Unemployment Insurance Agency deployed an AI-based fraud detection system that falsely flagged over 90% of its cases. This discovery was only made 2 years after the tool was deployed, by which point it had already impacted hundreds of thousands of people the agency served. Allegheny County's Department of Human Services deployed an AI-based child maltreatment screening tool in hopes to improve workers' decision-making. But it received widespread criticism, including scrutiny from the Justice Department, after it was found to exacerbate biases against Black and disabled communities. And this trend of AI failures is especially concerning because public sector AI tools often target high-stakes social decision-making contexts, which can be particularly challenging to design for. While there's a range of work focusing on improving their fairness or transparency, past AI failures often point to fundamental problems around their problem formulation or solution design. In practice, AI design concepts that make it to production may be doomed to fail from the very beginning. For example, AI design concepts have often been conceived in isolation from workers' actual decision-making tasks and challenges, leading to deployments that aren't actually viable in practice. Other times, teams might propose design concepts for new tools that cannot possibly be implemented in an effective, safe, or valid way, given technical constraints, such as the availability or quality of data. In the public sector, these challenges are critical to address because AI models are often designed to target high-stakes decisions, and there's often an existing expectation that the agency and the AI tool it uses should serve the community. Yet today, we lack systematic processes to help agencies make informed decisions about which AI project ideas to pursue and which are best avoided. In particular, most existing resources available today are designed for the private sector and/or assume the decision to develop the AI tool was already made. So in this paper, we introduced the Situate AI Guidebook, a structured process to scaffold early-stage deliberations around whether and how to move forward with the development or deployment of a proposed AI innovation. In this video, I'll give a brief preview of our paper. We iteratively co-designed and validated the Situate AI Guidebook with 32 individuals from 4 public sector agencies and 3 community groups across the US. This included agency leaders who are typically involved in decisions about whether to design or deploy an AI tool, AI developers and analysts who build and evaluate AI tools, frontline decision makers who might be expected to use an AI tool, and community advocates who represent community members' needs around public services. With participants employed at public sector agencies, so the first 3 stakeholder groups, we conducted semi-structured interviews to understand their existing challenges and barriers to making decisions around AI systems, as well as their desires for improving these practices. With all the participants, we conducted a series of co-design activities where participants ideated and iterated upon a set of questions that they believed were critical to consider before deciding to move forward with developing a proposed AI tool, yet aren't proactively or deliberately discussed today. You can find more details about our methods in the paper. Overall, the first version of the Situate AI Guidebook includes 138 co-designed deliberation questions spanning 4 high-level topics. First, goals and intended use. Second, societal and legal considerations. Third, data modeling constraints. And fourth, organizational governance factors. It also includes guidance on the overall decision-making process that the Situate AI Guidebook can be used to support, informed both by how participants envisioned they would use the guidebook in their agencies, as well as prior literature. And in the paper, we also include success criteria for using the guidebook based on our findings, as well as a recommended deliverable template to help synthesize considerations raised during the deliberation process and report back to the community. I'll briefly overview these first 2 contributions for the purpose of this video. Starting with content design around the deliberation questions. The first category of deliberation questions, goals and intended use, focus on promoting conversations that bridge reflection and understanding of the goals of the proposed AI tool, as well as how these goals could be operationalized into measurable outcomes. Several of the questions in this section are designed to help surface underlying assumptions regarding who benefits from the use of the tool and support discussion around what evidence suggests that these assumptions are true. For example, one participant noted that their agency had invested a lot of effort into assessing and trying to improve fairness in their models. However, the participant wondered whether they should be having conversations about more fundamental problems that they believe their team overlooked. As they expressed, my concern often has to do with the unexamined belief that an algorithm is always an improvement. I think there's a lot of stuff that can be done with machine learning that doesn't have to target decision-making at the participant level, but those are the kinds of questions the immediate focus is on. This participant contributed the following question amongst others. Who benefits from the use of the AI tool? To what extent are the targeted outcomes intended to benefit the agency versus the community? The 52 questions within this section are divided into 9 subsections from who the tool impacts and serves to worker perceptions. The next section is on societal and legal considerations. Participants share that they currently lack structured opportunities to proactively discuss social and ethical considerations surrounding the design of an AI tool. While they describe that their team spent a lot of time working on related data and model-specific fairness tasks, for example, using bias correction methods to improve model fairness, several participants wanted to discuss normative concerns regarding the design of an AI tool that could only be addressed in earlier problem formulation stages. Because of these past experiences, they wanted a shared knowledge base and vocabulary for discussing these ethical concerns with other stakeholders who might have different backgrounds. Participants contributed questions like, what are underlying assumptions that tool developers or researchers may have regarding the soundness or design decisions made in the tool? Do the people impacted by the tool have the power or ability to take legal recourse? This section includes 38 questions across 7 subsections, from legal considerations around the use of the algorithmic tool to social and historical context surrounding the use of the algorithmic tool. The third section intends to help forefront conversations around data and technical constraints that may be critical to have earlier on. Overall, participants who had experience developing AI tools underscored the importance of ensuring that they had the computing resources and data needed to develop their proposed AI tool before beginning development. Others described the need for earlier preparation and completing specific portions of model development, like forming a domain-specific understanding of the data labels, which might be challenging to achieve without involving those with relevant domain knowledge. To address these concerns, participants wanted to deliberate questions like, how well do we understand the meaning and value of the data that will be used to train an algorithm? And who should be involved in making decisions around whether to include or exclude certain data points or features? Do we have plans for involving those people? The 18 questions within the data modeling constraints section are divided into 3 subsections: understanding data quality, processing or process of preparing data, and selection of statistical models to fit data. The last section is on organizational governance factors. Participants often described encountering challenges when attempting to meet organizational governance-related needs for the AI tool, like maintaining the tool over time, ensuring workers are adequately trained, or communicating the goals and capabilities of the tool to agency leadership. They described how many of these challenges arise because these topics are often discussed in an ad hoc manner or too late in the AI development process. So this section of questions intends to help surface these considerations earlier on, given that these needs may require longer-term planning and preparation. For example, participants described how they currently lack domain experts that could help maintain and improve their model post-deployment, a gap in their AI development process that they felt was critically important to address. They therefore envisioned a question like the following. Imagine that we could assemble the ideal team to monitor and govern the tool after it's deployed. What are the characteristics of this ideal team? Who's the actual team that will monitor and govern the tool after it's deployed? Given the gaps between the ideal team and the actual team we expect to have, what risks to post-deployment monitoring and governance can we anticipate? How might we mitigate these risks? So this section involves 24 questions spread across 5 subsections, from measuring changes in model performance over time to internal political considerations around the use of the AI tool. Participants envisioned that the guidebook be effectively used to support structured, iterative deliberation through formal workshops between members of their agency. In the paper, we elaborate on one possible way this use case can be instantiated into an overall deliberation process. Participants who worked in agencies that are actively developing new AI tools described that there are already AI design and development processes in place that support focused discussions on several of the topics that the guidebook touches on. These people did not want the guidebook to replace these conversations. Instead, they desired a process that could augment them. For instance, when reflecting on their work on improving the fairness of AI models, some participants noted that having these deliberation workshops earlier on, before they developed or analyzed an AI model, can help promote reflexive conversations about what it means to do the work of AI fairness and what important considerations this work should aid this work, like whether there is a definition of fairness that agency workers agree on. Relatedly, others describe the importance of revisiting these deliberation questions iteratively throughout the AI development pipeline. Some describe that their understanding of some of the question responses, like the intended outcomes that the AI tool should help achieve, may evolve with time as the AI tool development evolves. For example, depending on what is technically possible, given data constraints or prediction errors. Frontline workers in our study expressed interest in engaging in early-stage deliberations around what the AI should be designed to assist, and prior work suggests their involvement in AI design is critical to ensuring that AI tools are targeting the most promising problem spaces. But effectively supporting safe and meaningful engagement from workers is an immense challenge. To ensure their participation, some frontline workers in our study felt that agencies should mandate their participation. They were especially concerned that self-selected participation might make it more challenging to hear from marginalized community members within their colleagues. Frontline workers also wanted safeguards to ensure their participation wouldn't be harmed from power and knowledge differentials across agency workers. Therefore, some suggested that frontline workers first hold deliberations amongst themselves, synthesize and formalize their collective perspectives, then attend the multi-stakeholder deliberation workshop to present their perspectives. As one frontline worker explained, a lot of social workers are very non-confrontational. We are our clients' best advocates, but not for ourselves. And so I definitely do think that people might be more comfortable, having their own sort of peer group discussion or colleague group discussion. As the research community continues to innovate new responsible AI toolkits, recent work has raised concerns regarding the practical efficacy of such toolkits. Prior work has found that the majority of AI ethics toolkits fail to account for the relevant organizational context, hindering their usability and effectiveness. Through our study, we demonstrated how collaborating with public sector agencies and community members to co-design a responsible AI toolkit, including both its process and content design, can help surface and account for some of these challenges. That said, future work is needed to understand how effective the toolkit is in practice and to surface other challenges that can only be observed through actual use. For example, in our ongoing work, we're exploring ways to better mitigate power imbalances between workers in an agency, like frontline workers and agency leaders, through designing improved facilitation processes. There's also an opportunity to expand the Situate AI Guidebook to engage community members. Community advocates who participated in our study expressed interest in being involved in these deliberations. Agency leaders, AI developers, and frontline workers also expressed interest in having community members there. However, they wanted guidance on how to engage with them in discussing complex topics around AI design. Future work could begin to address these challenges by integrating existing resources from publicly available guides into the guidebook, or explore ways to support more democratic forms of participation online, for example, by using social computing platforms that aim to facilitate and analyze community deliberation. Finally, while the Situate AI Guidebook was originally designed for high-stakes public sector decision-making context, there's an opportunity to adopt it to meet other AI use cases, including in non-public sector contexts. By designing for a setting with relatively high expectations and standards for responsible design, the Situate AI Guidebook sets a high bar for the kinds of questions and processes that should be followed to responsibly evaluate early-stage AI design concepts elsewhere. Future work could further explore ways to design for flexible adoption and ways that might support adoption in a broader range of contexts. For example, participants were interested in future versions of the toolkit that categorize questions based on the type of technology or type of deliberation that the question is intended to support. Future work could also aim to understand the types of questions that are the most critical for certain AI deployment contexts. Finally, we'd like to acknowledge and thank folks at the public sector agencies and community advocacy groups for their valuable expertise and perspectives that help guide this research. Thank you for listening to our presentation, and please do reach out if you're interested in learning more or discussing related work.